is a Taurus. Panzer is a 2007 Hammer H3 with a solid axle swap on the front. So I bought the truck back in 2012. I got it as a birthday gift. I started with just the normal T-bar crank that everybody does, and I slapped some 35s. A friend of mine, Chris Paul, he sent me a link for Rancho. Rancho at that time was looking for a truck to install a Rancho kit to address the issue that they have with the rear leaf springs that they were sagging. So I ended up with a 4-inch lift kit from Rancho. I ran the Rancho kit for 2 years, I want to say. The Rancho lift, I ran it with 37-inch tires. That was the highest that I went. And for the solid swap, I did 37s and then I went to 40s. And eventually now I'm with 42s. And once I do the swap for the 1-tons that I have out of a F350, the plan is to run 52-inch tires. For the suspension on the front, I went with a K10 front axle that is a passenger drop side. I'm running 513 gears from Yukon. I'm also running their bearings. And for the locker, I went with aux. It's air activated. For shafts, I went ahead and upgraded to RCBs. For the suspension wise, it's a basic 3-link suspension out of any Jeep. I'm running Bronco springs. They are just connected on the axle on the bottom part, and the top part of the spring is free, so we can get maximum, articulation. For shocks, I'm running the Bilstein's 7100 series shocks with the reservoirs. It's a 19-inch travel on the front and a 17-inch travel on the rear. The reason I went with aux locker is because we have the 3 options to activate it with air, manual, or electronic. My preference, since I have an onboard air system, was to use it with the air. So for the steering, I went with a Xterra steering box. I went and sent it to a Redneck ramp and had them rebuild it and also tap it so I can use a hydraulic assist. And so far, it has worked pretty well. The 42s on the trail and against, rocks, I can steer the wheels without any issue. So on the front, I'm running the ARB bumper with a 12,000-pound winch from Harbor Freight, one of the cheaper ones. For the sliders, I went with Rocky Road sliders. I'm not sure if they're still in production. On the rear, I'm running a custom-built 1/4-inch steel bumper so I can run my Humvee Rhino spare tire carrier. I decided to go with a 1/4-inch steel because, again, I'm not an engineer, so I don't know its strengths and weaknesses. And I decided that a 1/4-inch will be strong enough. The carrier itself is like, I want to say 180 pounds, so it's pretty heavy. So the way this bumper works, you have the mechanism over here. They have it manually, and they also offer the option with the motor. Again, I have the manual one. You just crank it the way you want it. It lifts the tire from the little retaining bracket there. And now you're able to swing out the wheel. And from here, you will engage the mechanism backwards and start lowering the tire. And like this, you'll get the tire all the way down, making it easier to, unbolt it from the mount and then put it where you want it. It's a little tedious because you have to, lift it and bring it down every time I want to access my rear door, but it's a small trade-off, for a big gain. I'm running the By Air 450P Plus. It's been great, I've been having this compressor for the past 7 years, I want to say, and it's been working well. It does struggle a little bit to air up the 42s, so because of that, on the other side, I'll be installing a dual ARB compressor. I already have it, wire up with the air hose, and the cables are going to connect to that one originally, so I can control it from the front. And we go down to my onboard 5-gallon By Air tank that I use to activate my lockers, and at the same time I can rule my air tools on it, whether it be an impact or pretty much anything that you need to that it requires there. Going back to the bumper, again, so it's so heavy, it's a 1/4-inch steel. You know, it's 3 plates and plus the side ones. And the tire carrier, it caused for the OEM leaf springs to begin to sag. So it gave Panzer, you know, the pre-runner stand. And because of that reason, I had to install airbags. I went with airlift bags, and they sit in between the leaf spring and the frame of the vehicle. I usually run them 30 to 40 psi when I'm driving on the town, you know, and when I go off-road, I drop them to like 15. That way I can have a smoother ride, although with the 42s at 4 psi, it's really smooth already. I'm running a dual military antennas that we use with the Singers. It's 10 feet whipped, and again, the mount, it's 360 flexible, and that's convenient for when you're on the trails, you know, that's how much you can really flex them without breaking them. And they're actually functional. I have 2 antennas. Unfortunately, the other one, it's out of service right now after my wife rolled the vehicle to its right side and it got bent then. You know, I just haven't got the time to get it straight again. The reason I went with dual is because with 1 antenna, if you look at the truck overall, it makes it look like an RC car. For the rear, I'm running the stock H3 axle, which is a 10 bolt. I went ahead and upgraded the gears. I'm running 5/13s to match the fronts on the rear. I also went ahead and used the aux locker that is activated with air on the rear. And I'm running a stock axle shaft for the meantime. On the rear, I'm running a spring over axle with the OEM leaf springs and the added airbags. I was trying to keep, you know, the leaf spring not to be so high with the overall spring over axle, and that has worked out pretty well. For the power plant, we have the stock 3.7 5-cylinder engine that it came out on this truck for this year. The only upgrades that I made to the engine was the air duct coil intake, K&N wet filter. So other than that, the PCM being tuned, the motor is stock. I sent my PCM to PCM of North Carolina. They did the whole, you know, update and shifting for the 42s and the 513 gears, so the transmission, you know, and the motor can perform better. The only other thing that I did is to do the transmission bypass. So I'm running this True Cool 10x20 cooler and dual 10-inch fans. The only reason I put in the fans is to, when we're on the trails, you know, and it's on command, in case you know, transmission reaches over 180, then I can turn them on and cool it off. Inside Panzer, some of the upgrades that I did was, of course, you know, I have my auxiliary switches. I have for the rear and the front aux locker activation button. I also have for my compressor and the one for the fans. The activates the fans on the cooler for the transmission, and I have the transmission temperature gauge. I'm also running the Wolfbox 4K mirror. The main reason I'm running this one is not for security, but rather so I can see what's behind me. Because if you are able to see, the 42-inch tire, the spare tire, you know, basically covers like 80%, 90% of the window. So when I'm backing out, you know, that's a good help, so we don't run over somebody. This is the Bearcat 980 that I originally had, CB radio. Nowadays, you know, it's kind of like outdated technology. So the plan is to remove that one and either install another, either a ham radio that fits on the double DIN, or just completely upgrade, you know, the stereo and get one of those fancy stereos that connect to the OBD2 port, you know, and monitor more stuff. I don't really like well, I like LEDs, but I don't like how bright they get when you open it. So I went ahead and upgraded the original one, canvas lights, to LED ones. I have for everyday or daylight lights. There are red. I also have green ones if I need a little brighter lights. And a friend mentioned that then I got a Mexican flag. other than that, pretty much, you know, Panzer is stock on the inside, nothing fancy. The future plans on Panzer, you know, basically it's gonna be the 6.6 LBC motor and the 1-ton axles from the F350s. The overall of Panzer's build, you know, what I had the vision about, you know, 6 years ago, I completed it. But as like they say, you know, any build or it's never really completed. Once these 42s were down, then we're jumping to I want to say they're 52s, but some people say there's 53s, military surplus wheels. So it's gonna be a little taller. A place that I've always been wanting to go is the Rubicon, but again, I just, you know, plans haven't, you know, come down together, or the stars haven't lined up. I do plan to make it to Moab, Utah with the Hammer 4x4 forum people. They do 2 runs, you know, every year, and I just haven't got the chance, you know, to go over there for one or another reason. But hopefully this year, at the end of the year, should be their 2nd run. I can make it out there.
There you go, guys. Pretty sick build. Fernando, thank you, man, for having me out. And if you guys have any questions, feel free to DM him. I'll put links to his Instagram and YouTube channel down below. Go ahead and follow this build. If this thing's not crazy enough, you guys are gonna want to see what he's gonna do with this thing next. So with that, thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys in the next video.